OK, let's bring in the three commentators who turn a quiet Sunday arvo into a rowdy Sunday night. Senator Hollie Hughes, Prue McSween and Graham Richardson. Welcome aboard, you three.
Thank you, Smithy.
Good evening. At least we're not all coordinated tonight.
No, exactly. The PM has decided not to allow the Christian Porter $1 million blind trust to fester while he's in the United States. Late this afternoon, he announced that the industry minister had resigned from Cabinet.
The inability for him to be able to practically provide further information because of the nature of those arrangements. If he were able to do that, that would allow Minister Porter to conclusively rule out a perceived conflict. And as a result of him acknowledging that, he has this afternoon taken the appropriate course of action to uphold those standards by tendering his resignation.
Richo, I've already said that I thought what he did was rather stupid. Porter was obviously pushed. Do you think that? And should the PM have waited until the investigation into this fundraising was complete?
Well, had he done so, that would have been, if you like, a squeaky clean, honourable thing to do. But the reality in politics is you can't keep getting bashed every day because of the presence of one person. And the presence of Porter is giving this government no end of headaches. They've run out of Aspro, so they've said, mate, you've got to go.
In many ways, Hollie, the ABC got their man, albeit indirectly.
I don't think they were going to let up on him at any stage of the game. And if you see what's happened to Christian, and he has denied the accusations that were levelled at him, it was basically, trial judge and jury by social media, an allegation. And I think we've really entered a really dangerous place at the moment that you can basically be tried and convicted within the media and then hounded via social media. I think the points that Christian made in his statement today were actually very telling. We know what the trolling is that goes on through the social media mob, and the fact that an accusation now that cannot be proven in a criminal or civil court is enough to hound someone out of their career is, I think, a very, very dangerous precedent that we've just seen.
Two leading epidemiologists don't want states to reopen until we get to 90 or even 95% fully vaccinated. Prue, that is not what the Doherty Institute advises us. We should be allowed to get out before then.
Well, tell them they're dreaming. In a perfect world, that might be fine. But none of us are going to contemplate that or accommodate that and accept it. We know already that in New South Wales we are plateauing. We appear to be plateauing. We've made a compact, Gladys made a compact with us that 80% double vaccination, we would have our freedoms back. And if she goes against that, there will be a lot of, marches in the street, I believe.
Yeah, I'll join the marches with you.
Yeah, I agree. We just can't do that. We can't accommodate it. And frankly, Smithy, I'm very cut and dried about it. If people don't want to be vaccinated, that is their right. You take your risks, okay? That's how I feel, and if you end up with COVID, then you've got to sort of deal with it. But why should the rest of us have to accommodate that?
Yeah, I like hearing from epidemiologists, Richo, because they deal in data. But do they have a sheet with a list of all the people who are doing it tough through mental illness and the ones that have attempted suicide?
No, they can't have. And of course, that's I think one of the great tragedies of this whole drama is the mental health issue, which is largely ignored. But, gee, a lot of people are suffering and suffering really badly. So I think that's just one thing that Gladys and her counterparts in Victoria and Queensland are going to have to up their game on. They're just going to have to do better on the mental health front because more and more people are succumbing to those problems.
Yeah. Now, the French, they've responded to our breach of the diesel submarine contract by recalling their Australian and US ambassadors. This is just a face-saving exercise, isn't it, Hollie?
Well, I think what was most interesting was the fact that they didn't recall the UK ambassador and the comments they made about British being nothing but opportunist and expected nothing less were perhaps more scathing than even the recalling of the ambassadors. So it was an interesting move. I don't think that was expected or on the cards, but certainly, as Minister Dutton said, the conversations have been taking place regularly with the French. This was not something that was, I mean, obviously there was some secrecy around the negotiations in securing the nuclear submarines, but there had been discussions with the French and they were being updated as things progressed, as they could be. So, but I do think their slur towards the British was perhaps more telling than even their commentary towards the US and
That's
us.
an interesting comment. You're quite right there, but they didn't do anything about the UK ambassador. Weird. Prue, isn't it funny? No one cited or heard from the diesel submariner himself, Malcolm Turnbull, since we made this decision.
No, it's fascinating, and Pine, of course, has kept lying low too. It's, you know, maybe Malcolm is in the fetal position, or worried about, you know, what the frogs might do to him now, because he must have had a very good few dinners with them, lots of cozying up. So it's an interesting scenario that he has just gone so silent, but you know, he's made to look the fool that he was to put us into such a dud deal. It was never a good deal. It was to save Pine. Pine, in the end, was leaving anyway. So, you know, forget the national interest. It's all about stitching up politics. And it's disgusting.
Richo, Malaysia says our nuclear sub deal will provoke an arms race. What Indo-Pacific nation will run out and buy nuclear subs now?
None. I think Malaysia's always overreacting. They've got a very long record of what is it Paul Keating said, recalcitrant?
Yes.
I think they seem to be able to be described by that word again and again and again. I think they talk very big, but I'm not sure they've got the clout to back up the talk.
And Hollie, does this mean that Malaysia won't want assistance from our nuclear subs if they're ever attacked?
Well, I think it's more important to note that Singapore, the Philippines, Taiwan and Japan have come out very strongly supporting this. And I think there's a lot of other countries that are feeling very comfortable in that Indo-Pacific region now, that that relationship between the US, the UK and Australia is now so strong and solidified. And submarines are the first line of defence and, in fact, quite often the first line of attack. So they're a very, very important asset. And it's, you know, a great thing for Australia and our security and our sovereignty going forward.
All right, put your marketing hats on. What's the best name for our first sub, Prue? I've got a few to kick us off. HMAS Dutton, HMAS Down Under, or maybe, depending on the case at the moment, HMAS Robert Smith. Any ideas, Prue?
Oh, well, I like the Frenchie. You know, it feels good at the time of engagement, but you can't wait to get out of it.
What about HMAS Richo? Richo?
Now, what about HMAS Hawk? Now that has a ring.
Come on, Richo, you just got to see.
No, I'll take that one, Richo. I'll take Hawk.
Hawkey is a hero.
As long as we can have Howard. As long as we can have Howard.
I just smashed a bottle of champagne on it.
The next one you call Howard. Hawkey preceded Howard in terms of when he was Prime Minister. So you let him have the first one. Howard gets the second.
All right. I've got to run. I've got to call the whistle. Hollie, Prue, Richo, thank you very much. Have a good week ahead.
Thanks, guys.
Okay.